Good morning, you're with us here on the Business Today show. I'm Abha Bakaya. Let's take you through some of the top news we're tracking for you this morning. A big leap for India in strengthening its critical minerals ecosystem. The 32,000 crore rupee national mission for Atma bears fruit. First permanent magnets critical to EV and electronics to be produced in India this year. It's an attempt to end the stranglehold of China on the crucial industry. India to join the US-led Pax Silica initiative today, a strategic alliance to ensure resilient supply chain for critical minerals and to end China's monopoly in the field. The strategic alliance among the 9-country group was formed 2 months ago, deal to boost India's domestic AI and chip manufacturing capabilities. Major export push with the government set to announce a 25,000 crore rupee export promotion mission later today. Focus on strengthening 8 crucial sectors like factory services, warehouses, e-commerce. Announcement just ahead of the formalization of 18% tariffs by Donald Trump. Business Today gets you exclusive conversations with 2 men behind Sarvam AI, India's first sovereign platform. Vivek Raghavan sees big opportunity in building low-cost Indian language AI. Pratyush Kumar reveals a consumer chatbot app will be launched within days with support for voice interactions in Indian languages to bridge the digital divide. Wall Street slips as financials drag. US-Iran tensions push oil higher. Jobless claims fall, trade deficit widens. Investors await Supreme Court ruling on Trump's tariffs, while potential Iran action keeps markets on edge. All right, markets today, as we look at the setup, very little changed right now. Let's bring up the index for you in pre-open and you'll get a sense of where we're at. Wall Street, as I mentioned, continuing to see a bit of a drag, and US-Iran tensions also remaining in the backdrop. So while key data was pretty much, a little bit range bound, as in it was really not indicative of any major direction at this point of time, markets continue to remain on edge with some of the factors in the backdrop like Iran. So right now, just about unchanged in pre-open. Nifty IT also continuing to see pressure right now. Let's bring in Shailendra Bhatnagar, who's joining us this morning on the show. Shail, what's the tech setup looking like? And I'm going to hold you to it because you promised that we would see momentum on the Nifty Bank, but didn't come through yesterday, maybe still a while away.
It's a while away, Abha, as you've rightly pointed out. The Nifty Bank retreated from almost all-time highs, but they are coming, and we just need to be patient. But for today, it's crude oil that will set the tone for the market. What you see is a price above August 2025 highs and much above the 200-day moving average as well. So oil on the boil, therefore ONGC, therefore the entire CPSE energy pack is what one should focus on for the intraday basis. But pain ahead as far as the Nifty at least is concerned. Supply coming in, and yesterday's 365-point drop wasn't something to be very happy about. Bears are ruling sentiment on the Lal Street.
All right. Well, after being largely absent from the India Impact Summit for the past 4 days, the US is finally registering its presence on the last day of the mega gathering. US will sign the Pax Silica initiative in just under an hour from now. The strategic alliance, which currently comprises 9 countries, including Australia, Israel, Japan, and UK, aims to secure global semiconductor, AI, and critical mineral supply chains and keep the Chinese monopoly and hegemony in check. The alliance was launched in December 2025 at the peak of the India-US trade freeze, with India's entry only gaining momentum after the appointment of Sergio Gore as US ambassador to India. Let's go across to Karishma for more on this. Joining us from Bharat Mandapam this morning, Karishma, take us through all the latest and really how critical this deal is strategically for the country.
Well, Abba, this is India's moment to join its tech geopolitical order, which, of course, had come as a not a very pleasant surprise back in December when we were not included, and US had gone to include allies like Japan, Korea, Singapore, and a couple of others that you mentioned of. But I think US Ambassador Mr. Sergio Gore's entry into India has changed a lot of dynamics. We've just recently been able to come on consensus with the US on a trade deal, and now Pax Silica also comes as a stronger momentum in order to secure our technological reserves. This is going to be a big boost for India in order to up its game for the global supply chain, in order to reserve its key elements, especially with our semiconductor mission, which is taking a key shape and foundation this year. This is quite a movement towards reserving and securing the critical mineral supply, and also to deepen our relationship with the US. The fact that for the past 4 days, and especially yesterday, when the sight of seeing America's Sam Altman and Sundar Pichai standing with Prime Minister Modi on Indian ground in Delhi does pave way for a stronger techno-political movement that India is shaping up on a global platform.
All right, Karishma, thanks so much for joining us with that. And in a major move towards self-reliance on critical minerals, India is also set to start the production of permanent magnets by the end of the year. And that's going to be a breakthrough in reducing the country's dependence on imported critical minerals as well. This initiative is backed by a PLI scheme of 7,280 crore rupees, which is part of an overall 32,000 crore rupee national mission to cut import dependence. Remember, critical mineral processing units will be established in 4 states: Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. The permanent magnet space is currently controlled by China, which has an 87% global market share. All right, so that's some of the big news this morning. Now let's take a look at the opening bell. We're just counting down. Mayuresh Joshi is also with us, and I'll come to you, Mayuresh, just after we kickstart trade. 25,406 yesterday, of course, during expiry, we were completely battered down on closing and not looking very pretty. This morning, looking flat to unchanged at this point of time, and markets really do seem to be stuck in a range-bound trade or scenario. We have seen most of the key triggers play out, and while some of these announcements at the summit are great for the long term, of course, and we'll discuss that, no immediate trigger seems to be in sight for the markets. Earnings also have been pretty much decent, but nothing to really drive momentum right now. There you have it on your screen. 25392 on the index, just down about 0.25% as we speak, and just calibrating there in opening ticks right now. Extremely flat start. Nifty Bank also just about steady. IT, auto will pull it all up for you, but right now not seeing any major traction. IT, in fact, continuing to see pressure. That's really where the major pain point has been for the markets over the last couple of weeks now. Gold, silver, as you can see on your screen, precious metals are just inching up, but that's with Iran in the backdrop. But the equity markets are very, very quiet this morning. Mayuresh Joshi, good morning. Extremely directionless, Mayuresh. I wouldn't say there's any major cause for concern or worry, but markets don't seem to be moving an inch.
Morning, Abba. No, absolutely, I think. And global geopolitics and macros are not helping either. So I think what is probably happening in terms of the rhetoric that Trump comes out with on Iran keeps the market on tenterhooks every time we speak. And again, I think the expectations in terms of global macro data points expected to come through. The GDP estimates are expected to come through today. You just saw the Japanese print, which was a tad bit better. Its jobless claims were better than expected as we speak. So it seems a mixed bag that is probably coming through on the global macros. And global geopolitics is obviously creating a headwind for the markets from an immediate short-term perspective as we speak.
All right, Shell, what are some of the elements that you're tracking on opening ticks?
Well, Abha, it's a nice shade of light green on Dalal Street. I think ahead of the weekend, all those shorts that were in the system are now getting squared up. So that's a big plus. The usual suspects in top shape. Look at Indian Bank, 934. It's headed towards its all-time high of about 952. There is a green tick on the Nifty PSU banking index. Therefore, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda doing pretty well. Strength coming in on the private banking setup as well. So that's good. And look at the way how defense is moving. BEL, BDL, HAL, all showing signs of life on the green side. So that's the market. A bit of profit booking on metals, but that was only to be expected, especially on the ferrous side. Tata Steel, Steel Authority, JSW Steel, Jindal Steel and Power, all record highs, a bit of profit booking from that end, Abha. So that's the state of play as far as the first 5-7 minutes of trade is concerned. Over to you.
All right. I'm also looking at some of the newsmakers to see where perhaps some action is. A little bit on a pace, Digitech with a letter of award for a particular contract. Novartis is buzzing. I think that's also on an order. So a little bit of action on some of these names. ONGC is up, of course, on the back of what's happening in Iran and oil prices seeing an uptick. So ONGC is up this morning. And other than that, it's a little quiet so far. But Mayuresh, we've seen a lot of macroeconomic action. We've seen a lot of policies that have been kickstarted. So whether it's capex, whether it's industrials, whether it's even the trade deal itself being signed, there are a lot of themes that will now potentially play out. Where are you focusing your attention in the market?
So I think three themes that are coming out specifically post-budget. One is the data center theme, which have been talked at nausea across the last few days. There is this rare earth theme and the power equipment theme. So I think directly, indirectly, I think a lot of the capital goods stroke infrastructure stroke manufacturing companies will come back in focus. And there are obvious reasons for that. The expectations in terms of investments on data centers expected to be significantly higher. Capacities to come around 6 gigawatt hours by FY28 and 8 gigawatt hours by FY30. On the power equipment side, just as an example, 9 lakh crores on the transmission side. We already got 8,000 crore PLI on the semiconductor, the scheme that has got announced. And therefore, I think even the announcement of the rare earth magnet corridors, I think to create self-sufficiency in terms of supply chains is something that will keep these sectors and subsectors and leadership stocks within these sectors in absolute focus. And therefore, I think what we've got in terms of stocks on radar, stocks like Cummins India as an example, Hitachi Energy as an example, Neyveli Lignite as an example, it corresponds to what is probably expected to happen, not just from the policy perspective, but also private investments and a large part of overseas investments that also can come through in all these areas as we speak, which gives us the confidence that revenue growth over the next few years can compound at a decent pace with decent margin, creating that profitability growth and the EPS rating rankings that we see at markets with. I think these spaces are going to have much.
Mahesh, I want to get your view on ABB. Q4 orders rose about 32% to 10.3 billion. And full year 25 orders grew about 15% to 36.8 billion. What are you making of the numbers? EPS also up about 30%. The stock is up 4% today.
Decent numbers. And again, I think it resonates with the themes that I was just speaking about. One can very well argue that valuations probably seem to be a little bit on the higher side for the space as a whole. But I think where the market is heading and where the expectations in terms of earnings are being laid out, I think these themes become pivotal and central in terms of not just India's macro growth, but even from a micro perspective as macro starts seeping in all these sectors and subsectors over the next few quarters. And therefore, valuations might continue remaining a tad bit on the higher side, but this is where growth will also come in from. So if you probably peg in the price earnings growth or the price earnings growth over the next few years, assuming all these factors playing out, I think if you lay out the terminal values over the next 10 years, then these stocks are not as expensive as they look at this point in time.
All right. I'm just going to pull up Novartis as well because they've signed a pact with Chris Capital to sell their majority stake in Novartis India. So Novartis AG has done this. Look at the stock, and I'm just going to run you through the news as well. The Swiss parent is going to be selling a 70% stake in Novartis India to the leading private equity firm here, Chris Capital. And this announcement was made on the 20th itself and to the stock exchanges. The acquirers will have to make an open offer to the public shareholders, of course, as per SEBI norms, which will be at 860 per share, 860.64 per share. That's the latest coming in there. And Chris Capital will, of course, acquire a controlling stake. So this is the big news coming in on Novartis, and the stock is, of course, seeing a reaction on the back of that. Want to get your take on the news. Mayuresh, I'm not sure how closely you look at this particular counter, but the market definitely seems to be reading well into that news.
No, honestly, I think not tracking this, but we'll have to decipher more on what the news is.
Fair enough. Novartis, remember for our viewers, has a portfolio of products for the treatment of diabetes, chronic neurological, cardiological, and dermat illnesses. The firm has revenues last of about 356 crores, net profit of about 100.9 crores. So keep an eye on that one as, of course, things develop, and we'll also have, of course, reports of the open offer for existing shareholders as well. All right, Shell, what else are you tracking at this hour?
Abha, I was just looking at the Novartis stock price. It's done nothing since June of 2011. So the rally that we saw in COVID was sold into, but that's probably the reason why, a venture fund sees hidden value, and probably over the next 1 year or so, you will see some action on that one. But a very, very nice move coming into the nifty energy space. Look at ABB, look at ONGC, look at Siemens. These are stocks that are doing well in a market that's next to flat. In terms of all-time highs, well, there aren't any that can be talked about at this point of time. But ABB, 4% higher, volume substantial, 292,000 shares, and of course, there is heavy selling pressure on the IT side. Look at how persistent is moving 2.5% lower, and that is a painful stock to look at, lowest since 6th October 2025, and very, very heavy volumes, down for the third day in a row. Abha.
All right, now the superstars of the AI Summit this year were the two co-founders of Sarvam AI, the homegrown AI platform, which is challenging global players and ensuring India's sovereignty in the space. Business Today TV spoke to both of its co-founders, Pratyush Kumar and Vivek Raghavan. Here's a glimpse into that conversation, and the full chat, of course, is available on the website.
There are many technical challenges in building some of these things. But I think fundamentally, when you look at a market, at something like AI, I think the question that a country like India needs to answer is that which side of this divide does India want to be, right? Do we want to be on, this is the only thing I can compare AI to is actually nuclear, weapons and things like that. There are weapon states and there are non-weapon states, right? And there is a difference between the two.
You either have it or you don't.
Either you have it. And that's the same question in foundational AI. And I think that's to me, that it's as stark as that. And that's a call that we have to make. I mean, obviously there is a great start that has been made, which is support given to us and support given to other companies. And I think that, but I think that to actually make this work, these models have to be used at large scale. And they have to be used at large scale, and only when they're used at large scale does the financial thing to build larger models also come in place. And I think that we will be obviously much more frugal than the others, but still, we need to have sufficient investment to actually continue to be in this race.
We're very soon going to be having an app, okay, which you can download on your favorite app store and actually play with it. It's going to be like any other chatbot. Very soon in the coming 1 or 2 days, you should be having it, and then you really experience it for yourself, right? And that And that's when it becomes real for people as to what it is. It is our own model, trained from scratch with our own data sets. Now I'm using it. That is the moment when probably people will experience.
Now, as the AI Impact Summit draws to a close, one of the most impactful days was Tuesday when the India Today Group partnered Tata at an event which showed women from India's villages and youth turning their lives around with AI and other tech. Here's how their lives have changed in their own words.
डिजिटल सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करते हैं मैम गांव में, और बुजुर्गों के लिए पेंशन का सत्यापन और उनको पेंशन निकाल के देना, उनकी सेवा करते हैं गांव में।
अच्छा, जिन लोगों को पेंशन अटक रही होती है आप उनकी मदद करते हैं डिजिटल सेवाएं देने के लिए, और क्या मदद करते हैं?
आधार कार्ड डाउनलोड करते हैं, पैन कार्ड बनाते हैं, श्रम कार्ड, जन आधार।
अच्छा, ये सारे आप जो सरकार की सेवाएं हैं वो आप उनको आसानी से प्रोवाइड करवाते हैं, और आप लोगों को कैसे जागरूक करते हैं कि उनके लिए सब क्यों जरूरी है?
क्योंकि मैम गांव के लोगों को इतना पता नहीं होता, मालूम नहीं होता, तो हम छोटा छोटा करके सबको महसूस कराते हैं कि इन चीज़ों की हमको ज़रूरत है, तो इनको लेना चाहिए, सीखना चाहिए, जिससे कि हमारे गांव की महिलाएं और जागृत होती हैं।
जी बिल्कुल, आपने सही कहा। मैं आपसे भी जानना चाहती हूँ कि आपको टाटा ग्रुप के साथ जो सीख मिली है उससे आपको क्या फायदा हो रहा है?
मैम, एक तो हमारी आमदनी बढ़ रही है, हमको घर बैठे एक काम मिला है, और सबसे बड़ी बात हमें ये मौका मिला है कि गांव के लोगों को बाहर ना जाने दे। जैसे कि बुजुर्ग लोग हैं, उसको कोई साथ ले जाता है, बेटा है बेटी, उसका फिंगर लगवाते हो, अपने पास पैसे रख लेते और बोलते। अब क्या हम जैसे कोई बुजुर्ग हमारे पास नहीं आ पाता तो हम उसके घर जाकर भी उसके पैसे निकालते हैं। गाँव में हमारा मतलब यही है कि गाँव के लोग बाहर ना जाए, सारी सर्विस प्रोवाइड हो गाँव के अंदर।
पहले कुछ ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था, बस घर का काम करो, घर में रहो, अगर थोड़ा बहुत होता है तो सिलाई कर लो, वो भी खुद का। पर अब ई मित्र के साथ साथ हम और भी काम कर लेते हैं, सिलाई वगैरह का काम भी बढ़ रहा है हमारा, और जो भी कुछ और भी काम कॉस्मेटिक वगैरह का सबका हमको प्रोवाइड कराया जाता है, और भी कई चीजें जिनसे हम TCS के अलावा और भी जुड़ गए इसकी वजह से, तो हमारा काम बहुत आगे बढ़ गया है।
When it comes to the experience, it is in the first place breaking the stigma that it is not just the technical team, it is also for the non-technical team. So they can also reach out to their problems, find solutions by ideating through, and this particular the process or the idea flow which we particularly focus on to, that helps them to technically derive a solution or an application which solves their problem.
All right, that's where we leave it on the show this morning. I'm Mayuresh Shell. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back at 3 p.m. for market closing. Thanks for watching.